进来了，开始了。Are we ready?
I go for it.
Awesome, great. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, everyone. This is Hong, CEO of Okcoin. Great to be here, and thank you for joining us. It's been a great pleasure to see STX stacking community growing quickly on Okcoin, and as one of the first platform to offer stacks listing in US and also the stacking capability for the stack community, we've taken a lot of time and efforts to make sure that we try to provide a seamless experience to the community. However, we want to, as mentioned previously in our blog during the weekend, we want to provide an update on what's going to happen with the product and why and what to expect. And it's my great pleasure to also have Muneeb, CEO of Hiro, here as well with me, who can later on provide an update on the protocol level. On the product side, so the key thing here that we are dealing with is what we have been able to offer previously in our Stack Earn product is that our product actually helps solve the cycle gap, which is a part of the protocol at this point. Meaning at the protocol level, if a user are going to stack STX on the protocol, you have to choose between probably 1 cycle to up to 12 cycle stacking period. And then by the end of that period, if you want to continue to stack, you have to wait for 1 period before you continue. Our previous solution, we have been trying to mitigate this by leveraging our own balance sheet to cover that gap. However, the growth of the Stack Earn product has been totally beyond our expectations. So we quickly realized that the balance sheet requirement is actually pretty big and it's not going to be sustainable. So we're trying to come up with a solution that actually balance both user experience as well as how we want to make it sustainable before any other changes that may happen on the protocol level. So what we're thinking is because of the product update that has to happen, we need to pause the upcoming cycle, which is the 4th cycle, and make certain changes. But we also want to open up to community and solicit feedback in terms of how you want us to take this product change in what kind of direction. I.e., we probably will have to offer 2 options, 2 cycles for customers to choose from. And we would like to see which cycles would be the most preferred, and we will probably go with that. With that, that's a very brief summary of the background. And with that, I will turn it over to Muneeb, who can also give an update on the protocol level. Muneeb.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here. It's great to see that you're seeing so much interest from people in the Stacks ecosystem. That in some ways this is a good problem to have, that you have so much interest and so many people want to use the product that you're kind of like very quickly growing beyond the initial balance sheet estimates that you might have had. So in general, for people who are not familiar with how things kind of like work in the Stacks ecosystem, let me give a brief overview. So Hiro, my company, built kind of like the public infrastructure. And then it was designed in a way that it's a decentralized protocol, and independent miners launched the network. This happened around January 14th. And in many ways, like we are big believers in Bitcoin, and we have almost like taken inspiration from Bitcoin a lot in the decentralization properties of the Stacks blockchain as well, right? So it's actually pretty hard to make changes to the Stacks blockchain. You require a very high level of miner acceptance for a proposal. Just like in Bitcoin, you have these BIPs, Bitcoin improvement proposals. In the Stacks blockchain, you have Stacks improvement proposals called SIPs. And the way this works is, first of all, like it's completely outside the control of my company. Like my company, Hiro, we're not involved in any way. Like we don't even sit on the SIP committee or have any say in any of these protocol changes. but the Stacks Foundation and some other independent entities, they look more into the governance of such proposals. And I believe there's already, if not a formal SIP, but already initial discussions about this particular change to how stacking works, where effectively right now how the program works is how Hong described, that if you're unlocking your stacks from the smart contract, you will miss a cycle, right? And then you can try to relock, but it will only be effective after one cycle, right? And it seems like a lot of real feedback is that people would rather see like some sort of a incremental behavior, that once you have locked your stacks, you could maybe send a new transaction to the smart contract and it just bumps up. That instead of, let's say, locking for one cycle, it can do +1 or it could do +2 or +3 and so on, whatever you want to do. So that is currently a proposal that is being discussed in the open source community. A lot of people are kind of like giving feedback on it. I think probably the Okcoin announcement might have included a link as well. If not, it's very easy to find. It's on forum.stacks.org where most of the discussion is happening. But in general, this is how the protocol works today. And what I want to emphasize is that just like it's very hard to change Bitcoin, it's very hard to change stacks, right? So no single party can do it. It is a protocol level change, but there is a process in place through the stacks improvement proposals. And there is, I think some parties have already kind of like taken the initial stab at what this improvement looks like. And we would encourage everyone to kind of like participate in that process, like give your feedback. And the way this works is that if there's enough support for a stacks improvement proposal, some of the engineers and open source kind of like developers of the source code, they would start looking at it. If it meets the engineering kind of like guidelines, someone might actually implement it. And then it's up to the miners who can signal support for this change and get it accepted in the protocol, right? So another interesting thing to mention is the current version of the Stacks blockchain actually has a timer on an upgrade to 2.1, and I believe that it will happen around end of August. So end of August is kind of like a good time where some of the other protocol features would be getting upgrades anyway, so that if this particular change makes sense and there's enough support from miners and others there, it can potentially be rolled into the same upgrade from 2.0 to 2.1. But again, your participation as community members into the process is very important here, because the only way to make these changes is to have enough support and convince miners and other people to actually accept it.
Okay, and to follow up on my previous point on the upcoming change on the Okcoin Earn Stack side, we are currently in cycle 3, and I think that cycle 3 is estimated to end around March 12th. Muneeb, correct me if I'm wrong. For customers who are currently stacking your STX with Okcoin through our Earn product, or anyone who has already committed STX and waiting for the first cycle, because we are pausing the first cycle to make some product upgrade, all you need to do is you just need to wait for the third cycle to be over, and those funds either that has been stacked or committed to be stacking for the following cycle will be automatically redeemed and transferred into your Okcoin account. So you don't have to do anything about it. But if you want to commit to participate in the next cycle, we'll let you know the timing of it once we're ready. But expect it to be between March 12th and April 6th. That's probably the 5th cycle coming up. Sorry, after April 6th. So the window is probably end of March. We'll provide more update on that. And if you have any feedback, again, as Muneeb said, the direction of the product, either at the protocol level or at our level, we would like to make it a community-driven process. So if you have any preference in terms of either at Okcoin level, take our survey, which I think has been shared in the live stream, or you can provide the feedback on YouTube. It's also, the survey link is also in the blog that we shared on during the weekend. If you have feedback on the protocol level, then go to the SIPN and provide information and your feedback there, so that any change in your preference can be more quickly affected as the consensus forms. With that, I'll pause a little bit and see what are the questions that may come through the community channel here. Any questions? So it looks like one of the question is, when will this go into effect? As I mentioned previously, the fourth cycle, the STX that have been committed to the fourth cycle, that will be automatically returned. The fifth cycle will resume, estimated again to start on around March 26th, because we internally at Okcoin will probably need to prep a little bit, open the pooling service to everyone to get ready for the fifth cycle to start, which I think is early April. And the other question is why is there a delay in stacking for this round? We're suspending the upcoming stacking period because we need to internally update our protocol, our product, to align with how Stacks protocol currently works. I.e., we will probably, before you stack your STX, we will ask you to choose between multiple periods. You can choose up to, between two periods, you have to choose one period. And that way, that is kind of more aligned with the Stack protocol, and we are probably not going to be able to provide that gap for the product at this current scale. What protocol upgrades are coming soon to STX, and how this shutdown will benefit the community in the long term? Muneeb, I think you covered a little bit of that. You want to have additional comment around that?
Yeah, so I think, as I mentioned, that the Stacks protocol behaves pretty much like Bitcoin, that it's very hard to kind of like make changes to it, and there are many different independent players involved, especially the miners, right? So again, my company is not a miner. We can influence the protocol, but it's a open process. Anyone can participate in the Stacks improvement process. There's already discussion going on in the community, so I encourage you to go and check out that discussion on forum.stacks.org. And then the way this works is that there is a upgrade plan for roughly end of August. It was baked into the original protocol that, by end of August or so, there's a block number by which an upgrade to Stacks 2.1 would almost like automatically trigger. And it's possible that if there's enough support for miners and other parties, that this particular change of being able to just increment the number of cycles versus missing a cycle before you can kind of like commit again to participating on stacking can potentially be included. Again, it's not in my control. It's not in my hands. It really depends on the community and the miners. So there's another question about the delegate service on the Hiro wallet, and some questions around growth. So I think the stacking participation has been growing overall. There's a very interesting website you could go to. It's called stacking.club. Some engineers in our ecosystem build that out, and you can go and see all the stats there, where how quickly participation in stacking has been growing. Hiro, my company, did release support for delegation directly in the wallet, and I'm aware of at least 2 delegators right now. One is staked.us, where I believe the minimum requirement to participate is 10,000 stacks. And then there is a community focused delegator by Friedger, who's an open source developer in the ecosystem. I believe it's called Friedger Pool or something. Again, you can find information on that on the forum, Stacks forum, forum.stacks.org. And over there, the Hiro wallet now supports delegation. If you want to use that. The Okcoin product is different, where they have an entire custom-made product just to make it super easy and simple for everyone to kind of like participate in a pool-like fashion. And that's the product that Hong is discussing over here, which has been seeing a lot of growth as well, even to the extent that they had to pause for this one cycle because the way internally the product was working, they were actually using their own balance sheet to actually cover some of the things internally, and the product was going too fast for that, which in some ways is a healthy sign as well, that there seems to be a lot of interest in people participating. All right, so I think the next question is there an option to recontribute the BTC yield into the next STX cycle? I think Hong would be able to comment on that.
Yeah, sorry, there is some technical issue with my computer. I just logging in from my mobile. Sorry for the technical hiccup here. I think that's a great question. We actually got that feedback on our social channel as well, and our product is looking into it. We will figure out if there's a way for us to reinvest that into the protocol, and I'm sure we all love compounding, and I know that the community loves the Stack community loves the contributing to the community and also earn yield on top of it. So short answer, yes, we're trying to look into it and see how we can enable it. And we will keep the community posted.
Right, I think next question is also for Hong, that is there any difference in the incentives if I commit my STX earlier or right before kind of like it closes?
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
So the question is that, is there any difference if you commit early versus you commit right before the deadline?
Right, no, there's no difference at this point. The commitment cycle is really for users to put their desired amount of stack into the pool. And once the stacking window opens at the protocol level, since our product connects to the protocol directly, just like every other direct participants on the Stack community, the pooled amount of money will be stacked on the protocol and start to earn Bitcoin. So, and we don't take any cut from the yield at the protocol level. We distribute it proportionally directly to stackers, and we are not adding any other additional yield on top of it either. However, given that we are in a transition period where we are updating the product, and as a result of that, we are pausing the next cycle, we are internally here considering a possibility where once the product upgrade at Okcoin Stack Earn is ready for the 5th cycle to start, For those who are going to commit to the 5th cycle, we will probably throw in some additional yield on top of your to be stacked assets back then for the 5th cycle to somehow compensate for the lost opportunity for the 4th cycle. But that will probably be a one-off incentive. There's a question about how the cycle APYs are calculated. And I think this, again, from Okcoin Earn product perspective, we're doing that based off Stacks protocol, what yields are being generated real time. And Muneeb, I don't know if you want to take this again. I know that you've touched upon this during our last conversation.
Yes, so I think I would say that the best resource for this information is this website called stacking.club. Over there, this website actually pulls real-time data from the Stacks blockchain itself and then analyzes it and displays the percent APY yield. And one thing I should highlight is that the percent APY yield is like one way of looking at it. But the other, at least almost like, more accurate way to look at this is actually what is the average dollar value of a reward address, right? So there are 4,000 reward addresses in total that are possible. So looking at what is the value of a single reward address is actually a very interesting metric. And what we have seen is that it is the average is going up every cycle. A lot of factors play a role here. What is the price of Stacks versus USD? What is the price of Bitcoin versus USD? What does the miner participation look like? So there are like many factors that play a role here. But that number has been going up, and you can actually look at the data from different cycles on stacking.club. And interestingly, another benefit of pooling or delegators is that you can actually get a more average reward per address because you are averaging it over many people, versus if you're doing it directly, the yield can even vary per block, right? So if you notice, sometimes it might be like $300 per address, or it might be as high as $800 or $900 per address, because there is some sort of variability going on based on miners who are bidding for blocks at the time, and you can actually look at all this data from stacking.club. But interestingly, a benefit of using a service like Okcoin's pooling product that also doesn't currently take any cut or fees either is that it smoothens out the payout to the potential users. Otherwise, if you have just somehow you're able to have like 80,000 stacks and you get a single address, you actually can't predict what exact yield you're going to get because of the variability on a per block basis as well. You can only look at the average over the 2-week window.
Okay, I see one more question. I think that's for Muneeb, for you, and then we can probably wrap it up. Kuldeep was asking, what level of knowledge do I need to have, and what equipment do I need to become a miner or staker in Blockstack?
Yes, so I think on the Stacks blockchain, there are two types of kind of like players. One are miners, and I think in generally, miners are more sophisticated, right? Like miners are running, they're basically operating on the Bitcoin blockchain, and they're bidding for becoming a miner. And you need to understand almost like the game theory and the dynamics of the system to then bid more intelligently, right? In the sense that you don't want to bid too high and almost like lose Bitcoin. You wanna bid an optimal amount where you're actually getting some profit. And miners have been fairly profitable, especially in the early cycles. And recently, from what I've seen from the data, is that mining is getting very competitive already. which is a healthy thing for the ecosystem. So if you want to be a miner, first of all, we encourage more miners. It's an open network. You don't need permission from anyone. Anyone can come in and become a miner. You don't need any special hardware. All that is required is just a normal laptop computer where you can run the Stacks node. And most of the work is on the optimization side of your mining kind of like strategy, right? Like how much are you bidding? How are you backing off? Like how are you studying the historical data? So it's almost like a optimization problem in terms of like how you're allocating your Bitcoin. Stacking on the other side is actually much more simple. Stackers are not actively writing any blocks. They're basically locking up capital in the PUX smart contract, and you kind of like pick how many cycles you want to lock for. And unlike traditional staking, in which your capital might be at risk of being slashed by the protocol, that is not the case here. So your funds can remain in cold storage if you're doing it directly, and there's no risk of kind of like slashing happening from the protocol itself. So compared to mining, it is definitely a lot more simple type of an activity, especially if you're using a pooling service like Okcoin that will handle all the details for you, or you're using delegators who, again, if you're below the threshold, you could use a delegator or a pooling service to still be able to participate.
Great. Okay, thank you. Thank you again for joining us. It's been great to hear and work with the community and help grow the community. And given that there's a lot of stuff going on, we would again love to have your feedback on where you would like us to take the Okcoin Stack Earn product going from here. So please go to the blog, take the survey, let us know your feedback, or just leave your survey under YouTube. And thank you again for joining us. And thank you, Muneeb, for joining us too.